Right, you're recording. Okay, right, so this is for year 11, so you can always go back, can't you? And now see yourself, having a look in here. Right, okay, so let's have a look. What are the connotations of this? What's the connotations of that? Horse, so what are the connotations of it?
Running horse.
Yeah, running.
Cowboys.
Cowboys, nice, that's a connotation. What else? What are the connotations of it? Jack? What are the connotations of a horse? No, what do you think about when you think of horse? Like cowboys is a good one. Someone might think of money if they like a gamble.
Maybe farm.
Farm, yeah. Do you know what I think of when I think of horse? No money, because I got one and she takes all my money. Right, what's this? What are the connotations of? A hand. So what are the connotations of it? Huh? Friendly? Why would you say that's friendly? Shaking the hands, yeah, maybe. What else?
About to give someone a slap.
Slap? Yeah. Dom, what would this? Connotations of? High five? Or maybe a low five. Right, come on, what's the connotations of this?
Car. Rubbish car.
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown? Who's Charlie Brown?
Isn't that book?
Yeah.
Charlie Brown is Sleepy?
It's a film as well.
Right, okay. Why are you wearing Crocs? Are they yours?
Because they're stylish.
Are you wearing yours?
That-
Oh my god, Megan's wearing hers as well. They're multi.
That is the badge.
What's on it?
What's on the other?
Oh, that's cool.
Is that a thing now? Do you wear badges on your shoes?
No, just Crocs.
Right, okay, so what is this? The connotations of this?
Driving.
Wasteland? Right, all of these are linked. Right, all of those are linked. How are they linked? How are they linked? You've got a horse, you've got slap, what did you say? Oh, no, it's not a Christmas Carol. No, they're all pictures. There's something that links them all.
Wait, what was it? A horse?
Horse.
Car?
Smack. Junk.
You make it wrong and then
So,
which creates junk.
Drugs, isn't it?
what did you say?
Right? You slap a horse to make it run, and then it produces junk and poop.
No, it might do, but yeah, no.
What is that got to do with drugs?
Smack as in smack.
I think crack.
Right, shall I tell you?
Yeah.
They're all slang names for heroin.
A horse.
Horse?
Yeah,
I thought it was cat.
Oh, the heroin.
Yeah, no, I thought that.
Smack, junk. Right, so all of these people, what
They've
are all
all
of
done
these
heroin.
people? They're all dead and they all died from
Heroin.
A drug
overdose. Right, so I don't know if you know who they are.
Mac Miller.
So Marilyn Monroe,
Michael Jackson.
That guy's an actor, but I don't know his name.
Right, Heath Ledger.
Is that
Heath
Prince?
Ledger, yeah, Heath Ledger. I've got my little boy's called Heath, and they would say, like, did you call him Heath after Heath Ledger? I was like, no, he's a junkie. And he's dead.
Yeah, he's good at.
He was a very good actor. My other boy's called Johnny, and they were like,
Is that
did you call him because of Johnny Depp and Heath Ledger? No. Prince? Anyone know who Prince is?
Yeah.
God, he's so good.
Mac
Miller? I don't know who he is actually.
That looks like the guy from like the Walkers.
He is called Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he was a very, very, very famous actor.
that guy?
Do you know who this is? Right, so this one here, her name is Peaches Geldof. And I don't know if you know her very quickly. She was the daughter of Bob Geldof and Paulie Yates. Paulie Yates was someone who was very famous in the 80s. If you ask your parents about her, they'll know who she was. She died of a heroin overdose. Sadly, so did Peaches, while her 9-month-old son was in the house with her. Right, so some of these people have died from heroin. Some of these people have died from an overdose of fentanyl.
What's that?
And they call it is actually a legal drug.
Is it like a medication?
Yeah, it's like a medication, but it is highly addictive. highly, highly addictive. So it is, it's a massive problem in America at the moment. Has anyone heard of the opioid crisis in America and things like that? Right, if you know anything, would anyone like to say what you know about opioids? Right, that's the real heroin. Do you know about the opioids? Opioid crisis.
In like the 90s, like in America, it really started to kick off. Through like high school kids and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Right, so let's just have a look here and then I'll tell you a little bit more. So opioids kill more people each year than traffic accidents, guns, and obviously police brutality. So you think about how many people, quite rightly, who've got angry about the, Black Lives Matter and things like that, and all deaths are awful, but you think about actually how many people are addicted to opioids and these drugs. They're killing children. So synthetic drugs are drugs that are made by man. So heroin is made by, do we know how heroin is made? No? You get a poppy, and you get the poppy head, and you slit it like that all the way around, and this like waxy resin comes out, and then you take it out.
Wait,
and
so
then,
if I just ate a poppy?
do you know, I don't know if you ate poppy seeds, yeah, and actually somebody who went to Dubai got done for drugs because they'd had a poppy seed roll. Really? When they got a poppy seed, I think it was in their shoe or something. Yeah. So
Poppies are meant to like represent like happiness, isn't it? Because it's that after the war they grew.
in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
that's where they do a lot of the poppies. Well, what you'll see is we're looking at language paper 2, so we're looking at 2 different viewpoints about drugs. So nowadays, drug companies, right, this is what happened. Drug companies, there's a drug company called, I can't remember, I'll come back to that in a minute. It's a big American drug company, and basically they made these synthetic opioids. So they were able to make an opioid. So an opioid, like heroin, it stops the receptors in your brain from feeling any pain. So you just like, and then you're really happy. And they were able to mimic that synthetically. And what happened was, unfortunately, when they did it, they realised that it was highly, highly addictive. Okay, so if you started taking these after about 3 or 4 days, you'd become addicted. And yet they pushed them and pushed them and pushed them and pushed them until they were basically got all the doctors, a lot of doctors in America would just write these prescriptions for these drugs, and people in America, like normal people, would get addicted. Now, why? This comes back to the idea of why people in America would choose to go on drugs rather than go to hospital. You've got a bad back. Yeah, very good. In America, you have to pay money. All right, you have insurance. And if you're poor, your insurance won't do, you might not, if you broke your leg, you might not get it fixed on insurance. Or if you've got a bad back, you might not be able to have an operation because your insurance doesn't cover it. Or so a lot of these kids that actually got into opioids were young kids. A lot of them were athletes who played like American football or basketball or anything like that, and they'd have an injury and then they'd get addicted to these opioids, and then that would be it. And it would be game over. So in America, do you want to watch a little film about it? Yeah. Okie dokie. It's very interesting, and the whole point about this is we're looking at what is people's ideas about this. So
You still recording?
yeah, I'm still recording. So let's see. I want to see something that's quite quick. Farmer, it was.
Farmer, no, 27 minutes.
I'll do that one. We're gonna have. Anyway, it's really interesting. So. Sorry, I've got to try and do this. This is why, when I was doing it from, this is why I was like, Oh, what? See, this is what drives me crazy. No, I can't do it on here. Oh, there you go. No, thanks. So I don't know if you'll be able to watch this if we watch this on the. Might be able to hear it. I'm not sure if it'll. That's what my boy was like. Can I get that? No. This is the stuff that's not expensive. Right. Okay. So as you can see, there are some bad things going on with heroin in the United States. Right. What I want you to do is I would like you to have a look at over there. Can you come and get one of these? So I don't have to touch them on the ends, please. Right, okie dokie. So we're going to read this, and what I want you to think about are the writer's views on opioids. Okay, so this is a writer, and he is writing about opioids, and he is writing about the opioid crisis in America. So let's have a look at what he's got to say. Okay, it's abuse, so it's the poison we pick. So immediately you've got that sense of him thinking about something, this opioid being a negative thing because he's used the word poison. By Andrew Sullivan, New York Times, February 2018. It's a beautiful hardy flower, Papaver somniferum, a poppy that grows up to 4 feet in height and arrives in a multitude of colours. It thrives in temperate climates, needs no fertiliser, attracts few pests, and is as tough as many weeds. The blooms last only a few days and then the petals fall, revealing a matte greenish-grey pod fringed with flutes. The seeds are nutritious and have no psychotropic effects. The poppy's power, in fact, is greater than ever. The molecules derived from it have effectively conquered contemporary America. Opium, heroin, morphine, and a universe of synthetic opioids, including the super powerful painkiller fentanyl, are its proliferating offspring. More than 2 million Americans are now hooked on some kind of opioid, and drug overdoses from heroin and fentanyl in particular claimed more American lives last year than were lost in the entire Vietnam War. Overdose deaths are higher than in the peak year of AIDS and far higher than fatalities from car crashes. The poppy, through its many offshoots, has now been responsible for the decline in lifespan in America for 2 years in a row, a decline that isn't happening in any other developed nation. According to the best estimates, opioids will kill another 52,000 Americans this year alone and up to 500,000 in the next decade. We look at this number and have become almost numb to it, but of all the many social indicators flashing red in contemporary America, this is surely the brightest. Most of the ways we come to terms with this wave of mass death by casting the pharmaceutical companies as villains or doctors as enablers, or blaming Obama or the Trump administration or our policies of drug prohibition or our own collapse in morality and self-control or the economic stress the country is enduring miss a deeper story. It is a story of pain and the search for an end of it. It is a story of how the most ancient painkiller known to humanity has emerged to numb the agonies of the world's most highly evolved liberal democracy. Just as LSD helps explain the 1960s, cocaine the 1980s, and crack the 1990s, so opium defines this new era. I say era because this trend will, in all probability, last a very long time. The scale and darkness of this phenomenon is a sign of civilization in a more acute crisis than we knew. A nation overwhelmed by a warp speed post-industrial world, a culture yearning to give up, indifferent to life and death, and raptured by withdrawal and nothingness. America, having pioneered the modern way of life, is now in the midst of trying to escape it. So if you look at the bigger picture, what is he actually trying to say about, what is this a comment on? It's obviously a comment on drug use, but what else is it a comment on? What is he saying in that last paragraph about America? Come on, read it again. Have a think. You've got to do this in your marks.
It's more than just a drug problem. It's like they call it a pandemic.
Tom, I'm going to give you an achievement point for that, because you're on fire today. You seem to be the only one who's awake. Very good. They've called it a pandemic of opium, as in, he's saying it's not just a drug problem. People are taking these drugs because they want to numb themselves from the difficulties of living in America. So there are people that are taking the drugs because of physical problems, but especially now, there are probably lots of people who are trying to numb the effects of the Trump administration, the conflict between the left and the right, Black Lives Matter, COVID and Corona. Like America, my brother-in-law lives in America. It's a pretty volatile place to live at the moment. He lives in Oregon, and there was a lot of trouble northwest. So very good, Dom. What he's actually saying, if you have a look down here, it's a story of the pain and the search for the end of it, and it's a painkiller. The scale and darkness of this phenomenon is a sign of civilization in a more acute crisis. So like you said, the whole country is suffering. Think about how many millions of people in America have lost their jobs because of COVID. It's becoming more polarized in terms of the left and the right. So you've got the right, who are the Trump administration, being very like, I want to carry guns. We have a right to arm ourselves. You know, Trump is a really good guy. And what my brother-in-law was saying is how many people support Trump in America. You know, we think maybe over here he's slightly wacko, but
There are a lot of people supporting him.
yeah. Pardon?
They must.
Yeah. And what they're worried about, this is, I'm digressing as I tend to do, but what they're suggesting is that in America, if he loses this election, it's going to be worse than if he wins it, because if he loses it, all his supporters are going to kick off.
Because his supporters are
so, well,
all rednecks, aren't they?
you can't say rednecks. His supporters can be
Rednecks.
quite volatile.
Plus, who's going up against?
Joe Biden.
Yeah, it probably is best for.
So
Yeah.
So Joe Biden is a Democrat, and what they're suggesting is that he's left. So his followers are generally less antagonistic. They're less prone to violence because they're left. So they're left leaning and more liberal. Whereas the right are the ones that tend to believe in the right to carry guns. So if Trump stays in, at least you know what you're dealing with. If Biden gets in, then all the people who support Trump are just going to kick off. So we're lucky. I mean, I know we're doing terrible, like, you know, COVID and stuff like that, but actually, I think compared to America, we're quite stable, even though we disagree with what the government might be saying.
What's bad about Biden then?
Joe Biden. Anyone want to say what they think's wrong with Joe Biden? He's very old. They believe that he did an interview with Cardi B the other day. If you want to watch it, and people are like, "Oh my god, that's just so cringy."
They an interview where he tried to make his speech in front of everyone.
They think
everyone just tore him to pieces
they actually think that he might have early onset because he's so old.
Yeah.
Why would they hire an old person to come?
Because there's not like they don't really get to choose. They have a run. It's run.
Yeah, and you have to have a lot of money behind you to run for any position in America. Right, so this is the question that I want you to do. If you just go down here, look at both. No.
Wait, are we doing it each marker?
No, I just want you to have a look at this. Right, it's not on there. It's on this one. Line 17 to the end. Right, okay. What I want you to do is, we'll just do this as a, I want you to have a look from line 1 to line 15, and I want you to highlight all of the words that present opium as being a negative thing, including the poison we pick. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video. So Right, how if you're poorly and you're away from school, what's the best way of me reminding you to watch this? Shall I put reminders on Frog?
I'll probably
Do you read your emails?
no. Maybe like once a month.
So do you get what's the word?
You get like a notification.
You get a notification if I put a homework up. So it might mean you might get 3 or 4 a week because if you're away, that's how many lessons I'll be teaching. Also, what I'm going to do, because I'm missing a lesson with you, Zach, on Friday, because the inset, I am going to put a proper lesson on, and it's going to be on poetry, because we're going to be doing that. So will you do me a favour, and will you try and see if you can actually watch this video? You can't watch it on Teams unless you download it. You might have to go to the reads.
You put it on 5 minutes before we leave and we check our phones.
Yeah, but I did that yesterday and then they didn't, and then I had a massive tantrum. I really did. I was not happy. Right, okay, so have a look from lines 1 to 15. See if you can. Right, and I'm going to say ciao ciao now.